Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Garton, and I'm a Deputy Administrator with the Division of Human Resource Management. The reason for this workshop today is to solicit comments from affected parties regarding several topics that could lead to regulation change proposals to NAC 284 of the Administrative Code, obviously, the HR code, that could lead to permanent adoption. We're in the permanent adoption timeframe now. Based on the feedback received, the language may be drafted or deleted, and a number of other regulations could be affected as a result of comments today. If any regulations on the topics that we're about to describe are submitted to the Human Resources Commission for adoption, amendment or repeal, that could come up. The minutes from this workshop and any other comments will be provided to them when they are presented for consideration. There are comment cards in the rooms, and written comment can also be submitted to me, Michelle Garton, at mgarton@admin.nv.gov. And staff will provide a quick explanation of the changes in which we would like your feedback on, please, and then provide the time, appropriate time for comments. When making comment, please remember to state your name for the record, and then go ahead and speak. Thanks again for attending, and I think Nora Johnson will get us started on a regulation related to grievances.
Good morning. My name is Nora Johnson, Human Resource Analyst for the Division of Human Resource Management, Consultation, Accountability, and Regulations Unit. The proposed amendment to NAC 284-693 will establish a reasonable timeframe for an employee to appeal the removal of a grievance not covered under a collective bargaining agreement, absent unusual circumstances. Possible examples of unusual circumstances may include if the employee is out on leave covered under the Family and Medical Leave Act. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nora. And I just thought of something to add is really the intent of it really is to prevent someone from appealing that removal of the grievance months down the road or something like that. It's just so it has a deadline to do it or they don't do it.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? 10 days seem like appropriate time frame? Anyone? Okay. Don't see anyone coming up here. We will move on then to, I believe Carrie Hughes is going to present these. Next group.
Good morning. My name is Carrie Hughes, and I'm the Supervisory HR Analyst for Consultation, Accountability, and Regulations in DHRM. In NAC 284.0937, 284.358, 284.360, 284.361, and 284.405, we are proposing to add the word disability to the term reassignment. The intent is to clarify that this relates to the reasonable accommodation process under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Additionally, in NAC 284.405 outlines the disability reassignment process, we are putting into regulation our current practice of limiting a reassignment search to jobs that the employee has identified that they would be willing to accept. And we're also including our new process for identifying open positions for reassignment. This new process will limit the impact of how many positions and how many agencies are impacted by the reassignment process, and it should limit that significantly from the prior process. Additionally, we are proposing deadlines for all parties to ensure timeliness as we move through the process. The amendment to NAC 284.358 also separates several types of lists from the priority lists outlined in subsection 1A, B, and C, And this amendment will allow for the use of any other non-priority lists in the order that is requested by an agency. We welcome any comments, questions, or suggestions.
Welcome.
Good morning. Genevieve Hudson, Department of Conservation Natural Resources. Okay, so my first comment or question is under 284-358, number 4, or the new number 4. Number 2, 4. No, that's just 4. Sorry, looking at the numbers wrong. Is it still necessary for the agencies to contact DHRM to verify priority lists identified in number 1 before submitting a requisition? In needs, if a priority list is out there, we're going to get it issued to us. So it kind of just seems like if we don't want to or need to know prior to submitting that requisition, why do we have to burden both DHRM recruitment and ourselves with taking that extra time to contact DHRM recruitment first, or can we just submit the requisition and get the answer there?
Good morning, everyone. Nicole Peak, Supervisory HR Analyst with DHRM. I know none of you know me at all. Anyway, I'll answer that question, or at least I'll try. Jenny, you are correct. If the agency submits a requisition, if there is a priority list for a layoff or a reassignment or a 700-hour, that will automatically be put on the requisition. So in those cases, I don't think it is necessary for you, the agencies, the departments, to reach out to DHRM before. I mean, there's no reason, we're not going to give you the list. We're going to put the list, we're going to attach it to your requisition. So the only time that it's really necessary are the times when you are wanting to do a non-competitive appointment. So you're proposing that we change that and add some language in there about non-competitive in some way?
Genevieve Hudson, yes, I would say that would be helpful to just clarify that so that it's not a requirement every single time and only on the ones that it's needed.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on under 284-405. What is the plan, like, is there a plan and is there consideration for positions that are held for vacancy budgetary reasons or other reasons such as the agencies contemplating or preparing like a reclassification for those positions so that they essentially are not held to be required to hold that position and or have it under consideration for the reassignment process? That's been a problem in the past where we've had to essentially not be able to move forward with the department's decision in moving forward with the reclassification of a position or be able to hold that position vacant due to budgetary reasons because of these disability reassignments.
Commissioner Washington, for the record. So I guess my question, Ms. Hudson, would be, would the reclassification be currently in process?
Sometimes not yet. Sometimes the agency is still working on the paperwork to get it prepared to submit to DHRM. So it's not always in DHRM's hands at the moment that we find out about a reassignment.
I would say that that part would be a discussion at that time. If it's already in the process, that's one thing. But if DHRM does not have the paperwork and we're notifying you, that's a vacant position. And you mentioned for budgetary reasons, it's a vacant position that is budgeted for. And I know we do, but we are not supposed to hold positions vacant for the purposes of salary savings. So if it's a vacant position and it's available, we'll be reaching out in regards to that vacancy.
Okay. Did you go on beyond that NAC? That I think you went on further, past 405. Sorry, Carrie, which ones did you go on? Just 405?
No, I did not go beyond 405 in the
Okay.
packet.
That's all then. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I neglected to do introductions in Las Vegas. Can we do introductions? Of course, Bashir Washington is our administrator. I also see Corrine Cosentino, a deputy administrator here. And Monique Williamson, I think. Y'all are kind of far away from the camera, so it's hard to see your nameplates or anything, but welcome and thanks for being here. Okay, any other comments on this group of regulations?
Sorry, Genevieve Hudson again. I missed one that I had. Also on 405, 284, 405. Yeah. Letter G under number 13. Is if they fail to respond to that mutually agreed upon time, is that per position, or is that like one time they fail to respond and then the process stops for them?
So subsection 13 is the section that addresses when an employee's disability reassignment rights would be exhausted. So it would be per the employee. However, we did put some consideration into this. While it would be a one time not meeting it, if you take a look back at the actual requirement, there is language regarding absent unusual circumstances. So there is some flexibility if there is a reasonable reason for their not responding in a timely fashion.
So just to clarify, you said per employee, not per position, right?
Per employee.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see anyone else coming up here in Carson City. Any comments on Las Vegas?
Nobody from Las Vegas.
Thank you. Okay, so then we will go ahead and move along to grouping starting with NAC 284, 313.
All right, that'll be me. To present to you guys, so I think the best way, if it's okay with you, Michelle, is to do one and then take comments and then go to the next one. Okay. So 313, we're proposing changes to subsection 3 and subsection 6. I do think it's pretty self-explanatory, but subsection 3 says the proposed language removing not later than 5 p.m. now states, the application must be received on the closing date as determined by the Division of Human Resource Management. So we all know that we're going into a new applicant tracking system, NeoGov. We don't know what the parameters, the requirements of that system will be. So we're trying to ensure that this regulation will work with our new system, basically. So I don't think there should be any issue with that. Subsection 6. Will now read, except as otherwise provided in subsection 8, competition in a promotional recruitment is limited to current classified state employees who are working in the division, department, or state service which is specified in the publicized job announcement. So all we're doing is adding the word classified and we're removing the fact that they have to have 6 months of continuous service to apply for an internal promotional recruitment. Because, I mean, this is open to discussion. As we know, this is a workshop, but we don't see why it makes a difference if the employee currently works for the state. Why should it matter whether they've worked for the state for 1 month, 6 months, a year? So we're just removing that piece. Annette Altman from DPBH agrees with that that is a good change.
Please have Annette come to the microphone. Thank you.
There's only 2 people in your row, Annette, or is Jenny, or no, she's in the, yeah, okay. So, so are there any comments, questions, concerns other than Annette's? Or can we move on to the next regulation?
We have someone from Las Vegas.
We have someone as well. Okay, let's start in Las Vegas. Comments, please, and please remember to state your name for the record and turn your microphone on.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Michael Baltz, and I am the Personnel Officer 3 for the Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation, also known as DHRM. DHRM would like to comment about the proposed revisions to NAC 284.313, specifically the removal of subsection A from section 6. While DHRM applauds and in fact encourages the ability to promote within state service, DHRM is concerned there may be unintended consequences of such a revision. Removing the requirement of at least 6 months of continuous employment may lead to employees being promoted before their performance can be adequately evaluated. This could result in multiple divisions or departments expending time and training resources, yet receiving no return for these expenditures. Furthermore, this could add to excessive recruitment, interviewing, hiring turnover, and a loss of institutional knowledge. Thank you.
Did you turn on your microphone?
Yep. Jill Atkinson, Chief Human Resources Manager for the Attorney General's Office. I would like to see clarification on the revision, in particular that if a employee who has not completed a probationary period is now being given preferential treatment in a promotional opportunity, not through an open competitive process, how does that correspond to the merit principles required in hiring in the classified service?
Nicole Peak, I guess Jill, just clarification, why would you think that it's preferential treatment?
If it is a promotional opportunity that's limited to current employees, and this is a probationary employee who hasn't achieved confirmed status, they haven't achieved the full rights entitled to confirmed employees within the classified service, and therefore their rights are no different than any other member of the public who does not live under that set of rights and privileges.
Do you want to say something, Michelle?
Well, I was just, Michelle Garten for the record, I was just thinking that the current language that we have, the stricken language, does say 6 months in a probationary, so it doesn't say they need to have completed a probationary period and become permanent. So we're talking probationary either way.
Nicole Peak, I guess just one other comment is if it was, I understand we're talking about a promotional recruitment, but if the agency had opened it up as an open competitive, then again, any employee that had only worked for the state for 1 month could then apply to that recruitment. So, I mean, I guess that's a workaround, or ways to get around it. But, I mean, again, this is up for discussion. So, I mean, is there a way that you would like to see it written other than, do you want A to be completely put back in? We can take it back and discuss it again. I mean, I feel like we have differing opinions here, so.
No, absolutely. I appreciate the dialogue. I think it's important, from my perspective, that we are ensuring fair and equitable treatment for all individuals, regardless of circumstances in which they may find themselves. And so if it is a brand new person, I'm saying I could have been employed for a single day and now I'm eligible for promotional opportunity. How do I have, I guess, greater rights or privileges than any member of the public? And so limiting, I think, our opportunity to open those up to catch hopefully the most qualified pool of applicants. This feels like it could be exploited as a workaround process to give individuals advantages in certain circumstances, which is my concern on the equity side.
Understand. Nicole Peak.
So Jill, can I jump in for a second? Oh, I hate the feedback. Jill, so what's the difference between 1 month and 6 months?
Under
Besides 5.
It's just math. Under at least a 6-month tenure process, that individual has, I think, to the point that the representative from DHRM made, has provided that agency opportunity to determine their merit qualifications to be eligible for a non-open competitive promotional opportunity. Versus, I've been here a single day, it's a very different evaluative criteria than 6 months, in my opinion.
Corinne Cosentino for the record. I don't see a difference between, first of all, it's the agency's prerogative to open up a divisional promotional. So that opportunity is afforded to employees of that division or agency. That's number one. Number two, the difference between the open competitive and getting someone, outside the agency applying to it, or that person being evaluated in a very specific position doesn't determine whether they're not going to succeed or be successful in another opportunity afforded to them. I just don't see that connection.
My concern, I think, is the other side of that equation. All of those individuals on the external component of that who aren't being afforded the same opportunity. So through a non-competitive, open competitive process, you have all of those unknown individuals out there that also aren't being afforded the opportunity to apply for that position at the exclusion of somebody that I hired a day ago. Conversely, I do believe that, to your point, it is the agency's prerogative in terms of how they will seek to fill vacant opportunities, whether they want to open them up internally or externally. I think that's an important piece to keep in mind, but I also think we need to find a place of balance where we aren't creating undue advantage, and that all individuals are being provided opportunity to enjoy the benefits and privileges of public service.
Chair Washington, for the record, before Annette jumps in, it is a state employee benefit, and the department again makes that decision of whether they want or they feel like they have internal talent to have a promotional recruitment versus them selecting to go to the open competitive process. But it is a state benefit for the employees because it lessens and it lessens the applicant pool when it comes to the promotional opportunities, and it allows an employee an opportunity for growth in that department. So it is a benefit. And it is something that we do afford to employees versus outside candidates. But again, it's the department's choice whether they want to fill it internally or open competitive.
Annette Altman, can you hear me?
Can I say one more thing? I'm sorry, Corinne Cosentino for the record. I just wanted to say that the divisional promotional option for the agencies exists regardless of whether that piece of this regulation is removed or not, that still exists. So that won't change the choice for the agency. Thank you.
Just making sure I'm clear. Annette Altman, Department or Division of Public and Behavioral Health. I just want to say the reason that I support it is it's anytime we expand the candidate pool for any type of recruitment, I'm going to support. We definitely have people that come in for positions that really there's no point in doing an open competitive recruitment because they're not going to have the skills needed to move up. And if anyone knows me and within my department, I never do division promotionals or department promotionals. They're always open competitive for the reasons that you've expressed. So I just want to say I support anything that broadens our candidate pools. Thanks.
I just have one last comment before we move on. If there's any concern about the internal employees not having enough state service, enough time in state service, or potentially not being qualified, that should be easily squashed, knowing that the person, if they are the chosen person for that promotional recruitment, they're still on probation and they won't have been in the recruitment or on the list for that recruitment unless they met minimum qualifications. So, thanks. Oh, I just turned my mic off, but I need to keep talking. Okay, let's move on to, there's no other comments, right, for 313? Okay, moving on to 284, 374. I think the explanation of proposed change is clear here. It says, current interpretation is that the term of eligibility is a period of 12 months from the time a candidate is determined to be eligible. So after those 12 months have expired, an applicant may no longer be added to an eligible pool or list of candidates for that title. They would need to reapply again in the system. The standard will continue to be 12 months in the future, but this regulation, we propose that to future-proof things again, because we don't know what our new system will entail, what the parameters will be. So to future-proof everything, we are adding this piece in here in subsection 1B that states the expiration of term of eligibility as determined by the administrator. So that opens it up to having to make a change in that term if needed sometime in the future. But as it stands, this doesn't change anything currently. We are still going to be using the term of eligibility as 12 months. Someone is coming up.
Genevieve Hudson, DCNR. I probably should have sat in the front row. So first of all, keeping the standard of 12 months, even if it's unwritten, that's a long time. And when you're looking at those admin assistant positions or the accounting assistant positions, those lists can be really long, and the applicants on them tend to get exhausted way before 12 months. And so keeping them on there for that amount of time is just, it's too long. It's an exhaustive, unnecessary requirement for the agencies to have to go through to exhaust those lists to be able to move on, and contacting every single one of those applicants who have been contacted probably 500 times about an admin assistant, for example, position, is just, it's a lot. And so we would actually like to see the 12 months lessened as a standard. And then moving forward with the general language of as determined, if that is not a set defined time period somewhere in DHRM's guidelines or whatever, then how would that time frame be determined? How will those of us in the agencies know what that time frame is? Would it potentially be different for different job titles? I totally just lost the words that it's moving to. And how, as I just described, how would this fix the issues with these applicants that we and the agencies have who we get 5 lists for an admin assistant issued. These applicants are on the same 5 lists. How do we not have to contact them every single time? How does that fix that problem?
Well, that's a
Bashara
lot,
Washington
Jen.
for the
Oh, sorry, go Bashara.
Jen, so you think a period of 6 months is a reasonable amount of time?
I think 6 is better, definitely better than 12. I think even for some of the lower level ones, though, like the admin assistants or accounting assistants, could even be less than that.
Okay.
Nicole Peak, just one thing, Jenny, don't get up yet. I don't think there's a way for us, well, in my opinion, I wouldn't want to make the term of eligibility different from one job to another job. I just think that muddies it too much. And if we do decide to change it to 6 months, I mean, I don't really see an issue with that, except that we can't do that in our current system of NEETs, which automatically gives the eligibility of 12 months. So that would be something that we'd have to fix going forward with our new system.
Yes.
Annette Altman, for the record, I agree with everything she just said.
Wait, Annette, you agree with everything that who just said? Oh, that Jenny just said.
For the record, my thumb went back pointing to Jenny.
Sorry, I was looking down. Okay, let's move on. Oh, okay. Let's move on to NAC 284-4375. This one is called automatic advancement, commonly known as auto progression. In subsection 1, we are updating language to make it clear, to make it more clear, and moving away from the term journey level. So we have redlined, but not exceeding the journey level. The 3 requirements for an employee to be auto-progressed or automatically advanced are, number 1, A, you have to meet the minimum qualifications. B, you have to receive a standard or above standard on your most recent evaluation within the last 12 months. And C, you have to obtain endorsement from your appointing authority, supervisor. In current practice, this is what we do. I think that we are just clarifying subsection 1B more to say that we are, satisfactory performance means a satisfactory evaluation. In subsection 3, this one, at least in my opinion, has always been very confusing. So we're trying again to clarify the language. But in summary, what it says is that an employee that goes on military leave and returns to state service after their military leave has to complete their probationary period to ensure that they are performing satisfactory. After they've completed their probationary period and become permanent, then we will go back and retroactively pay them back to the date on which they would have originally received their auto progression had they not gone on military leave. So hopefully that language that says, after successful completion of the probationary period, automatic advancement must be granted to the employee as of the date on which permanent status would have been granted if the employee had not taken military leave. Hopefully it clarifies it a little bit. And then finally, subsection 4, this one is an addition. Any retroactive adjustments pursuant to this section shall not exceed 6 months from the date on which the Division of Human Resource Management receives the request. So my comment on subsection 4, I passionately believe that there are 3 parties that are responsible when talking about an auto progression, an automatic advancement. Number 1, the employee should have some responsibility in understanding that when they were hired into an underfilled position, not the budgeted title. They should understand what that means in their offer letter. They should understand that potentially in a year they could be progressed to the next level or the budgeted title. That's the first person that should have some responsibility. The second person that should have some responsibility is the supervisor of that employee. Should be tracking, should be keeping track of when the employee should be automatically advanced when they get their eval. And number 3, the HR for the department has some responsibility in this. They should also be tracking when the employee would or should be getting an automatic advancement. Then one final comment before I open it up to you guys. I hate the lead line. I hate the word automatic advancement. I would love some suggestions as to what we could potentially change that to. Maybe we call it progression to a position. I don't know. But automatic advancement is very misleading.
Annette Altman for the record. I don't have any suggestions at the moment, but I agree with you. I'm concerned about 1B, stating that there needs to be an evaluation on file. Some of our auto progressions are not based on a probationary period, so as soon as they meet the minimum qualifications of the next level, we want to push them up. It's one of the ways that we encourage them to get those things done quicker than a year. So this would limit us to then require, we couldn't promote someone without doing an eval, and that might be artificial if we're a month in. So I'm concerned about it limiting our opportunity to progress people faster. And then I had something else. Then that also goes down to the same thing with the military leave. After successful completion of the probationary period, they might be eligible for automatic progression without completing a probationary period. So that would limit, I think, based on this language, it would limit us from doing that.
Good morning, Allison Wall, NDOT for the record. Yeah, I agree with the automatic word, and I'll think of a suggestion, but there's nothing automatic about it based on this reg and all the hoops we jumped through. I mean, we talk a lot about that it is a non-competitive advancement, so you don't have to compete to advance through the levels. That's when we're training our supervisors. We use language telling them this is not automatic and it requires what you're talking about, all of the parties to be involved. So it's maybe something along those lines where it's you're just not competing to get to the next level in these series. So I'll think about that and let you know. The other one that I imagine you know what I'm going to talk about is number 4. We have struggled with that, and we've had it go to the EMC and it be overridden that, you know, we do have to retro the auto progression because sometimes, I mean, we had a case, that the one that did go to EMC, that the employee was pushing for this and really didn't feel like they had the means or the understanding to figure out how to get this progression to go through. And it was the supervisor, and we did, we gave them an LOI or a warning or something, to say, hey, you didn't do your job. But ultimately, the employees suffered because of it. And I think that, when we're thinking about headquarters employees, HR is right there and they can come and talk to us. We have rural offices that have 3 people and they're living in employee housing. We've had extreme turnover in our supervisory staff. We do not have seasoned staff that really understand. And we can give an employee, in Blue Jay, Nevada, that's living, we've got 3 people out there, and explain to them, oh, you have to understand this NAC. We're not able to do that. So I struggle with putting this in the NAC because there are exceptions where the employee has truly tried. And maybe I don't know that I have the answer for what to do, but I don't think an employee should suffer, not get the pay that they are entitled to because a supervisor didn't do their job. Another, one suggestion would be, in our new system, is there a way of tracking this? We don't have anything that automatically tells us the list, these are the list of people that should be progressing today or are eligible, and of course there's going to be people that are eligible prior to maybe that year, if it's just a common series that each year you progress. But I see problems with this and more, EMC or complaints or grievances when.
I appreciate everyone's comments, I do. I guess I would have to respectfully disagree, Allison, only because in my mind, I think that's a job of HR. We have to, number one, educate our employees and our supervisors, apparently, and track these things. I think that's a human resources function, in my opinion.
This is Bashir Washington. That was going to be my question to Allison. Where does HR fall in that process of there are 3 people in the rules and they don't know the NAC, but we do? And why aren't we tracking it? And why wouldn't HR be tracking this to ensure that we do not harm the employee? And the language that is actually being added or that's here on number 4 is consistent with other requirements in other NACs. So I love this type of dialogue. And I was going to tell Annette, I don't want you to move from the table. But I guess my question would be, where is HR's responsibility in this, in ensuring that the employee does not get harmed?
Allison Wall for the record. Thank you, Bashir. Yes, we do have a role in that. And we have struggled with getting the documents in on time. So even through tracking, we can change our internal processes. I guess I'm just sharing and putting on the record that we have had scenarios in the past that we had to request an exception for, that, the eval didn't come in, the supervisor didn't get the eval in. And so we can track it, but it takes, I just think there's other factors involved with the supervisor, the appointing authorities, and what we can get, the reality that we live every day of getting the documentation from some of our rural offices. And I'm specifically talking about our remote rural offices that it's a big state and there's a lot to track, so.
Annette Altman for the record. I was racing Lisa to the button. I hadn't thought about the points that she's bringing up on number 4. I do agree. Again, this is just something that would limit us from being able to fix an issue that occurs. Yes, HR has a responsibility to track this. Supervisors do, employees do. But as we know, those things fail occasionally. So I didn't think about it, thank you. But I totally agree, putting something like this and just limiting that ability to go back and fix it to the most appropriate time, I don't see a benefit to us, the employee, and I don't see how it would impact DHRM, because it ultimately is our budgets that are impacted when we go back further.
Lisa Alfred, DCFS, for the record. I agree with what they both have just said, and sometimes we have people out on military leave more than 6 months, so then we would be penalizing them as well with the 6-month restriction. Well, I get it, the budget is affected. But also back to section B here, that what about people, like we do clerical trainees and auto-progress the next day, that would require them to have an evaluation on file. We have a lot of things that we end up doing in auto-progression the next day on, especially those, and I would really hate to penalize a person that we brought in off the street, clerical trainee, as those pay grades are already pretty low.
Thanks for all your comments. I really do appreciate it because it helps us to try and figure out what the best way is to revise these regulations. Going back to subsection 1B, if advance to and then the next position or whatever it is we're calling it, give me your suggestions.
Annette Altman, for the record. My suggestion would be to leave it as satisfactory performance. Ultimately, it's the appointing authority's decision to endorse the auto progression based on all things considered. So requiring an eval doesn't help us.
Allison Wall, for the record, NDOT. I agree with what Annette is saying, and that was my other comment, was about next day auto progressions. I wasn't sure if this was for the exact same thing or just moving through a series. And if it is for the next day, that satisfactory performance would be through the memo versus the eval. I know that at least at NDOT, we would continue to require the evals as we do today. So if you're in, say, the highway maintenance worker series, we do require an eval in order to get to the next level. So we wouldn't be taking that away, but now that I understand what they're saying, it looks like it would take away our ability to do the next day, which when we run 2 lists together, we run the underfill and the regular level. Some people only apply for the underfill not understanding, but they actually qualify for the higher level. So we want to be able to continue those next day auto progs. Again, as what Annette said, is to broaden the pool. I'm going to think more on my number 4 response.
Genevieve Hudson, DCNR. I also agree with Allison, Annette, and Lisa on 1B. I guess as long as DHRM is not going to require to see an evaluation, that would be helpful. And that the agency or appointed authority can just say that they're good to go in that obtaining endorsement piece of it. But I guess also in that obtaining endorsement piece, we have had issues in the past where the agencies didn't have the budget to have the advancement, or whatever word we're using, completed as well. And so I don't know if that piece falls into there, and sometimes that's out of even our agency's control because the GFO has gone and changed the budget when they see a position was previously underfilled and then that person left the position, and they've gone and changed the budget to be at the budget of the underfill title instead of the actual budgeted title. So that's been a problem as well. So I guess as long as that falls into that obtaining endorsement piece. And then I had questions on number 3 with that new language. If we do keep number 4's language with the 6 months, is that 6 months going to be limited with the number 3 language for the military personnel? If for some reason theirs is longer than 6 months back, would that then limit theirs? And so I also agree that the 6-month limitation in number 4 is also not reasonable when it comes to applicability in all of the situations that may occur. And we also don't like the automatic. I never use that term, ever.
Jenny, Nicole Peak for record. Jenny, would an addition to subsection 4 stating something like, if we can agree on subsection 4, but something along the lines, except as provided in subsection 3, 6 months, something along those lines.
Genevieve Hudson, yeah, I think yes, and or maybe even in number 4, like absent extenuating circumstances or some other kind of caveat in number 4 to allow us to potentially go back farther than 6 months with an explanation of some sort or justification.
Appreciate it, thank you. I see, is it Michael? Are you, the camera is the back of your head, so I can't tell if it's Michael or not. Oh, there.
Can I ask a question first? Can I ask a question first, please? Jen, you made a comment. Did she leave? I need her back. Tell her she needs to stay at the podium too. Okay, so you mentioned budget. And let me throw this scenario out. So it's time for underfill advancement. It's time for underfill advancement. And there's no money in the budget at that time. January 1, no budget. October that year, there's money in the budget. Are we going back to January to now? Or are we going to do 6 months back from the date that DHRM received the paperwork? Or are we going to go by the date of the paperwork?
Genevieve Hudson, the ones that I've done for that have been based on when the budget is available. So they didn't necessarily go back farther than when we found out that there was budget available. So if we put in the request for October and there's no budget, then January comes around and there is budget, then it's effective January is usually what the request is, and does not go back to October because there was no budget from October to January. Those are the ones that I've processed in the past, so however that falls out there.
And do you typically define that like in the memo?
I have always gone through, so I've always explained it like these advancements require 3 things: the employee meeting the minimum qualifications, the agency, i.e. the supervisor appointing authority, being ready to progress the person to the next title because they believe that person can perform. So that kind of falls into this evaluation and the obtaining endorsement. And then also number 3 being the budget. And so thus running that progression request by the fiscal staff within the agency to ensure that the budget truly is there. Because of those situations where we've ran into, we don't have the money. And so that's the way that I explain them in our agency. Those 3 things must be met in order for us to even send it to DHRM to even have the MQs reviewed. They must meet those 2 things, and then we find out if the MQs are good to go.
Michael Baltz, Dieter, for the record. There's also concern to follow up with what was said about the same day or the next day advancement. We do that for a few of our positions that are difficult to recruit, predominantly vocational rehabilitation technicians and counselors. And if we had to wait for at least an evaluation period, even if we did one a month into it and did another, that still would give us a hard time hiring some positions. So we do have concern about that.
Corinne Cosentino for the record. first I'd like to say, Jenny, I don't agree with automatic either, because it's definitely not automatic. And when we met, I asked to have that removed, but I was told because that's in the title of the NAC, we can't remove the automatic. So I agree, it's definitely not automatic. I also agree with the feedback on the next day auto prog. It could impact it. And I worked at NDOT, so I know how difficult it is because I worked in Elko. And getting, even being an HR representative in Elko, getting rural supervisors who are out on the road and very busy and far away from you, I could see that evaluation being very difficult. So I also agree with leaving the language at satisfactory performance to avoid to put more hardship on the agencies. Just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Allison Wall for the record. Thank you, Corey, for that. In thinking of suggestions for addressing number 4, because I do respect the need for deadlines and not just going back indefinitely, maybe something we could do is, if this does go through, work together to get a form, because we started looking at this after we had a couple of exceptions and saying, how are we going to train our employees to understand? How are we going to get our supervisors to relays? And so maybe we could work and get some support from DHRM to have a form where at orientation, or when an employee moves into this series, we wanted to have them sign something to say, you do have a responsibility in this. Have the supervisor sign it, that saying I have a responsibility in this. And then HR having that ability, again, going back to B, if the eval wasn't required, it would give HR the ability to override that appointing authority, or at least take it through their chain. Because, if we cannot get that supervisor to write the eval, we would be able to say, to the employee that if you've asked your supervisor and notified them, hey, my auto prog is ready, and they don't act, give them and empower them to contact HR. I mean, they can now, but some of them don't. So really having them sign off and agree to it. So maybe that's a suggestion, that if this does go through, if we can have a statewide form that helps us train our employees and supervisors, is just an idea. I mean, that's what we were trying to get through to avoid these requests for long-term retros.
Annette Altman for the record. As much as I respect Allison, I don't want another statewide form. We have a very clean process in place for ours. They are notified at orientation. There is a form they have to put out to solicit the auto progression. So with all due respect, happy to help, happy to share, anyone. So no statewide forms. And I'm just gonna just to be redundant, I absolutely would like to see the requirement for the evaluation removed. I don't see how it's advantageous to anyone, any of the parties in play. It's our responsibility as the appointing authority, the employer, to ensure these things are met. We don't need a requirement to say, oh, on top of what you have to do, you have to have an eval in place. Like she said, we struggle with supervisors doing evals to begin with, and the employee should not be hindered because we're dealing with performance issues on an employee and a supervisor not doing their evals. So I would just really love to see it go back to satisfactory performance and let us define it.
Monique Williamson for the record. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that my understanding is we are hopeful that NeoGov will address some of the concerns regarding the advancement component, because if there are automatic reminders or alerts or things of that nature that will be sent out, then that should help folks stay on track and, again, hopefully minimize some of those issues. Thank you.
Logan Coleman, Nevada Health Authority for the record. I don't see any value in 1A or 1B or 1C. To me, underfilling is a way that we recruit, not a way that we, hold performance. That's what a probationary period is for. So I would propose removing 1B and 1C totally.
I guess Logan.
Bashir Washington, can I ask a question, please? Just kind of, and the next day, and I think, I know I might be squirreling, the next day advancement, which is beneficial. Why are we just not putting them in the position on the first day?
I'll just use the administrative assistant trainee. It's easier process, quicker process to get them in. And once they're in, then we can auto-prog them. They meet the MQs. It's just another way to fill the positions. And as we know, that's the push, right?
Allison Wall, for the record, the other reason that we do that is, as I was mentioning, sometimes people will apply for the lower level, not realizing that they qualify for the higher level. So when we run to consecutive recruitments, you know, for Analyst 1 and Analyst 2, we have to bring them in based on our current process, we have to bring them in off the list that they were on, and then we can auto-prog them the next day.
And then you have Big Mean Nicole, who will say, if you want to hire them at the position that you're budgeted for day one, if they're not on that list, then you have to do the underfill route. Versus possibly a memo with justification. I can feel Nicole fuming at me now regarding a memo with justification and as to how that candidate meets the minimum qualifications for the position that is budgeted for, so that we don't have to do the extra step of the next day advancement. That might be a second, deeper conversation, but
yes, probably not for this workshop, maybe. All right, are there any other comments? Or should we move on? I can't keep up with all your notes. Okay. No. All right, Nicole Peak, moving on to NAC 284.096. We are updating this language to read, reinstatement means an appointment of a former permanent employee to a class with a grade at or below the grade of the class previously held. So we're removing the word non-competitive. And the reason, hopefully this should be an easy one and everyone agrees, because there are many times, as an example, when we run a recruitment, we don't realize that a person who applies to that recruitment was a former state employee. So to benefit the employee, we give them the ability to do a reinstatement.
Annette Altman, for the record, I do agree with the changes, and it's never been an issue. The non-competitive, we just bring them in different, whether they competed or not.
Allison Wall, for the record, NDOT, we agree with this, and NDOT has had issues being contested about this reg, and this would help us out.
Lisa Alfred, DCFS, for the record. My concern would be, would this eliminate the ability to do it through non-competitive means? Okay.
Nicole Peak, it does not. So it's any type of appointment. We did also remove where it said similar class, because it's hard to define what a similar class is. So it's any class, basically, that they qualify for at or below the grade that they formerly held. Wow, you guys made that one too easy. Should we move on? All right, moving on to NAC 284.171. This one also is regarding reinstatement, rate of pay. Again, just clarifying our current practice. We literally just added that one word in there, current base rate of pay. So an example of this would be correctional officers. They were given a 2-pay grade increase in the 2023 legislative session from a grade 34 to a grade 36. So if an employee who was a correctional officer wants to be reinstated, but when they left state service, it was a grade 34, this now allows us, and this is what we do anyway, just making that clear, this is current practice. This allows them to be reinstated at their current grade of 36, rather than having to come back at the grade 34, which is what they left at. Okay, easy peasy. I think there's only one more. Well, for me. Okay, last but not least, NAC 284.386. Reinstatement of a former permanent employee. One more time, we're going to just try and clarify our current practice. So, subsection 4 used to say a reinstatement to a similar class required approval by the Division of Human Resource Management. We want to remove that because we believe that all reinstatements should be approved by DHRM. And the reason why is because there are certain parameters, requirements that must be met for a reinstatement. Number one, it says it in the lead line, it has to be a former permanent employee. And unfortunately, currently, we receive reinstatement requests all the time for employees that were not permanent in their previous state service. So we feel that it's important for us to have that second set of eyes and make the verification. The second requirement is that the permanent employee was separated without prejudice, right? So that's not really easy language, that's LCB language. Meaning they can't be, as an example, dismissed from probation and then be able to be reinstated. So DHRM needs to have our eyes on that and make sure that we're not reinstating someone that should not be reinstated because they were not separated without prejudice. And then, of course, we have to ensure that they meet the minimum qualifications.
Annette Altman, for the record. I just have a question. Isn't that just semantics? I mean, because we could still rehire him. I mean, a reinstatement, really the only, and maybe I'm missing something, the only advantage to a reinstatement is we can bring them back at what they were paid at prior. So if they never became permanent, they were probation, I mean, odds are they're a step one anyways. I mean.
Yeah, Nicole Peak, that's exactly right. I mean, that is the reason for reinstatement, because you can come back with your current rate of pay, or the pay that you held previously. So if it was a step 10, you get a step 10. So if you left because of, it was a disciplinary separation, you don't get to be reinstated. You don't get the benefit of those 10 steps.
So we hire someone back that previously was at a step 10 in a position. We've got to go through the step of sending it to you to say, hey, can we bring this person back? The system clearly shows they worked in that job for 15 years.
Annette, can you put on your microphone? Because you just sound like a little background girl. Thank you.
Sorry, I thought I pushed it. I apologize. It just seems like an unnecessary step. But I'm not going to fight you on it.
I appreciate that. I mean, most people are doing it anyway. I mean, whether you know it or not, most of your staff is already doing this. But this is the proposal, so you guys, I mean, feel free to weigh in.
This is Michelle Garten for the record. I think too, Nicole, having that second set of eyes is just another way to ensure that it is done correctly. So where there may be the issue, something wrong happened at that time, shows up years down the road, months down the road, and it needs a big correction to it. It's just to make sure that it's appropriate and correct.
Genevieve Hudson for the record. DCNR doesn't really have a problem with this because like we have to go through DHRM to check the priority list anyway, so we may as well just have you do all of this in one shot, get it all done, and usually that's what happens for us anyway, so.
Nicole Peak, 100% correct. I mean, it's one email, right? We got to send the email for the priority list, so I'll just add the next sentence on there.
And that Altman, for the record, I just have to laugh. It's one email for this topic. Just.
I mean, that's fair, but I can't do anything about that. All right, if there are no more comments, that's it for me. Woo!
Okay, thanks everybody. Oh, I keep forgetting to move this over here. Thanks everybody for all your comments and lively discussions. Very, very, very appreciated. Moving on, we will go to the last couple of regulations here, and we have Nora Johnson to present them. Welcome.
Good morning again. Nora Johnson for the record. Because the Division of Human Resource Management received a question asking if leave designated in NAC 284.589 subsection 8 could be used to attend an appeal hearing related to the termination of a service-connected disability, DHRM is proposing this amendment to expand provisions for an employee who is a veteran during the first 12 months of employment for administrative leave with pay for that purpose. While previous changes to subsection 8 have not yet been codified in regulation, it will be codified together after it has been submitted back to the Legislative Council Bureau's Legal Division and approved by the Legislative Commission. Codification doesn't happen very frequently, but when it does, all changes to this and any other regulation will be reflected. Thank you.
Thank you. I know a lot of y'all who've been around a while, this is a very long reg and it gets amended kind of on a frequent basis to expand the provisions. Any comments in Carson City on this one? Anybody coming forward in Las Vegas? I don't see anyone at the table. All right.
None from Vegas.
Very good. All right, then we'll move on to the last reg. Nora.
This is a new proposed regulation. Based on questions regarding paid family leave, the proposed new regulation is intended to put into regulation the authority for agencies to request medical documentation that substantiates the need for any leave related to incapacity due to physical, mental, or emotional disorders, or for a qualifying family member's incapacity due to physical, mental, or emotional disorders, except for annual leave or compensatory time. And this authority is not otherwise addressed in NAC 284.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? Yes. Thank you.
Genevieve Hudson. Okay, so in the explanation, it talks about except for annual leave or compensatory time, but I didn't see that in the new language. So it doesn't necessarily clarify the type of leave that this is a requirement for. So that is not going to be helpful moving forward if it's not clarified. Because then we may potentially come back and try to ask for that documentation when an employee tells us, because they always tell us that they're using annual leave or comp time for illness purposes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this one? Discussion? All right. Thank you, everyone, so much. In closing here, I just want to remind everybody that there are comment cards, and you can email me any written comment that will be included as we move forward. And anything is approved by Bashara to move forward. We'll send it to the Legislative Council Bureau for pre-adoption review. I know some of y'all came in the door on this side. If you could kindly sign in on your way out on this side over here, that's where we have that set up. And potential regulations discussed today will, in theory, go to the HR Commission hopefully in September. Or there may be some things that take a little longer that may go in December. But if there's no other comments, thank you so much again, and we'll adjourn this workshop. Thank you.